I decided to build an electric wheelbarrow, and this is the result. This is an absolute monster. It has a high wattage motor, and it pulls. This is an electric wheelbarrow conversion kit that I picked up off of Aliexpress for about 250 bucks. It is a 500 watt, 36 volt. There's a little bit lower wattage. There's also 48 volt versions and 24 volt versions. I specifically went for 36 on this one. 500 watt, that's the highest power they could find. It is a geared motor. Oh, well, when you get that shaft turning, you can feel that there is a set of planetary gears in here, which is good because that gives us high torque with low RPM, which is what we want on a wheelbarrow. It's an M14 shaft. It comes with a few wires. These 3 wires are going to be for the motor, and these little ones are going to be for the Hall effect sensor. So 3-phase motor, Hall effect sensor. Yeah, that's it. Tire is about 13 inches, 14 inches, which I wish it was a little bit bigger because most wheelbarrows that I can find these days are 16 inches. So it'd be nice if it just matched that. So this is the wheel that came with it. Here's our motor controller. So, you know, Chinese special, not a lot of information on it. You can see it's labeled low brake, alarm power, handle, Hall. I know that one, that's a Hall effect sensor for the wheel. And these probably are gonna be my motor, 3-phase motor wires here, and this is probably battery here. But not a lot to go on for the motor controller. I bought this style of on-off switch, and as you can see, it's on-off switch. It's meant to be mounted like on a handlebar for like an electric scooter or something, but that'll be the throttle. So I'm hoping to find a way with the wheelbarrow to have that throttle on. Now, it came with brake levers, again, because a lot of these are kind of like electric bike style things. So these brake levers have a sensor in them that tells the controller that the brakes are on, so they should turn off the motor. But I don't think we're going to be using these. So that's everything that came with the wheelbarrow kit itself off of Aliexpress. Here are the parts I'm going to use for the electric wheelbarrow that I did not get off of Aliexpress, but rather I think pretty much everything's from Amazon here. So first up, my bike brake handle brake lever. It's got a place for 2 cables, so if I had a twin wheel setup and I wanted twin brakes, this would be good for that. I guess I'm just going to be using one of those. More importantly, it has this little button right here that when I push it, locks it in, and so I can use this as a parking brake. So that's why I picked up this one in particular. So I'll have a parking brake on this wheelbarrow so it won't go rolling down a hill when I'm done with it. So that's the brake lever. I have a set of generic sheath and cables and bits to crimp on. So I'll be able to use this to make up a brake for this. I picked up 2 different size of brake discs. So I've got kind of a smaller one for a bike, and then kind of an average size one for like a scooter or something. So I picked up 2. I have a couple other around. I'm not sure what's going to make sense and what's going to, you know, fit easily when I get on the wheelbarrow. So I've just got 2 of those. I picked up a pair of disc brake calipers. These are cable driven, not hydraulic. Cable's easier to work with for this for me. So these are just any generic ones. So we'll have to find a way to mount these up. So we're gonna have to fabricate all that, but we should be able to have a brake on it. And then, ignoring the DeWalt battery, I have these battery adapters. And this battery adapter makes contact on the DeWalt battery, or you can get these from Milwaukee and other brands. I have 2 of these, and I've put these 2 in series, and you can see through this test setup of wiring. I put these 2 in series, and so this will take this 18 to 20 volt DeWalt battery up to 36 to 40 volt, so it's gonna match our motor voltage correctly. And I like doing this because then I can, for having a tool around, I can just toss in these DeWalt batteries that I have lots of, and I don't have a dedicated separate style of like bike 36 volt battery or 48 volt battery. I could just use plenty of these and just toss them in, This one's got pretty good capacity. It's a 9 amp hour, so that ought to be a lot. And you ought to be able to use all the smaller ones too as well. And just mount this onto the wheelbarrow. So that's the kit of all my parts. Now let's go take a look at what I'm gonna have to do on the wheelbarrow to get this wheel to fit. This is an 8 cubic foot Gorilla Cart brand wheelbarrow that I've selected for doing the E-barrow conversion on. So here's our E wheel, just sitting up there so you can kind of see what we need to do. So these wheels and that axle have to come out of the way right now. So first thing, I want to get wheels out of the way so I can see about putting my E wheel there. And what I'm going to do is use that same mounting point to make a bracket for that E wheel to bolt into. Luckily, I have some steel that looks just about perfect. So found a little something in my scrap bin. I should be able to make a nice bracket there. It should be a good width. I'll do some cutting on that. And basically we'll make a bracket. All right, I'm gonna remove this axle now. That's where I need this wheel to go. All right, I have my 2 bits of L angle iron cut. Basically just use this as my guide to put it down here, and then I just marked this. So basically I had a piece that was just as wide as this. Got them on both sides. I put this on here and put some red tape on the wheelbarrow to help me see where these needed to go. And I've been tapping them back and forth and trying to get this to where these are even. I'm about 5.5 inches between them, which is about what I need for the wheelbarrow width. Now I'm going to put this here and mark where I should drill some holes, because basically I kind of want similar adjustability to these slotted holes in here, so I can move that in and out a little bit and clamp it down. And then when I get that in, I'll get everything lined up and I'll mark, and I'll go put in a notch here for me to mount the wheelbarrow. Made our adjustable slots. We're at about the spacing we're gonna have. I like where it's sitting, I like everything else. So now I need to start making a cut in here to drop this down in. Okay, both of these have been notched out to take that electric drive shaft. So it's an M14 bolt, but it's also got just a 10mm slot in it. So we have that there. So let me get this mounted. I have the 140mm disc I installed, and here is one of the brake calipers, and I can just barely slip it past the tire and get it to where it needs to be. So this might work. It could also just be really difficult to ever get this in and installed. But I also bought this smaller 110mm disc. I think I need to try that now. Looking at the 110mm disc, this is definitely not going to work because the bolt pattern's different. This one's actually, it's 5 bolts, that's 6. So, yep, that's not going to fit ever. Well, it's 6 lug, so, but I can't tell anything else about that center bolt pattern. So hopefully if it's 6, it'll fit this 6. We'll try this one. It's fairly cheap. But just gotta wait another day, but hey, that's not too bad. Okay, wheelbarrow left. I have my wheel. A little tight. Oop. On the right side of the spacer washer. Okay, that's mounted. Now, a couple things. I didn't make this a super deep slot at the moment. So see, this washer is meant to keep it from spinning. And yeah, right now that's not gonna do me any good because that was meant for a way deeper groove. This is kind of a cheap pressed version of that. And so I have the same issue on the other side. So but I mean, that looks reasonably straight. You hear the gears going. Okay, well, it's mounted. This will at least work to start testing, and I can see if I need to do anything else right now, and I can play around with that caliper when the new disc comes in. Now I will tighten this down. That was a 21 for the big nuts. Now a half. So it still turns nice and freely. Both directions, hear the gears going. So now let's move on to wiring. I'm working on getting the wiring set up. I did a quick test where I connected these things up and made sure the wheel turned, so that worked. So now I'm going to try to finalize this wiring a little bit. This black and red is the main power coming into the controller, so I need to hook that up to my battery source. And then these three wires, green, blue, and yellow, represent the three phases of this three-phase motor, so that's coming out of the controller here. And over on the wheel side, I also have green, blue, and yellow, but unfortunately these are little bullet barrel connectors. So I'll need to cut these off and then splice in a fork. This is the Hall effect sensor wiring, some tiny little wires, and I had to install the wires into this plug. So this white plastic back shell didn't actually come with it, just the wires. So luckily I was able to get one of those with some other hardware and put it on. So we're going to use this terminal strip as a pass-through for everything. So I'll be able to have this is a 6-position terminal strip. I'll be able to have my 3 phase motor wires and then my power wires coming into this single 6-position strip. And then I'll go ahead and work on getting the rest of this stuff wired up for the throttle and such. Connect up my battery positions. Now something a little different on this one. For the battery, these are 18-volt batteries, so we're putting 2 of them together to make 36 volts for this kit. So I need to put the 2 batteries in series, and to do that, I'm going to double land a fork here instead of splicing them together. And now we'll go my negative there. 2 battery adapters for an 18 to 20 volt battery plugged in series, and So now I'll be able to get 36 volts from here and here, and I don't ever need to do anything on this one. So we'll just remove that screw so I don't ever accidentally connect something there. And that's my power termination. Now I can wire up my electric motor. We'll keep these as the ring eyelets instead of splicing on forks, which just means that I have to remove that, put that down in there. Because it's a ring and it's round and it's not one of the rectangular square eyelets, it doesn't quite fit in perfect, but close enough that I can just crank it down like that. Same thing here. We'll pull out this negative. Put the negative down in. Again, it's just barely a little wider. But I don't want to splice in anything if I don't have to. And there we go. That is the main bit of the power wiring to connect this up. And now that we have everything permanently mounted up on the bar, I can do a quick test to make sure it works. And it still turns on and works, so it's wired up right. And now I'm fitting up the disc brake caliper that I've got. I've got this disc brake mounted right now. I'm moving this into position, trying to figure out where I can put it. And basically, I figured that right here it's going to work, and I just need to mark a couple of holes for it right there and get those drilled out. I had to clearance this bit of metal a little bit just to fit around the caliper. So I've got that shape carved out, and now the caliper will be able to sit up tight where it needs to and make full contact on the brake rotor that I've picked out. Here is our brake caliper bolted on. We did some notching, we got the holes drilled, it fits up there. And now that we can actually see everything, I can see that I need to do just a little bit more clearancing. Right from here to about here. Not a whole lot, but in that section I need to clearance some. Okay, we've made our adjustments. We've got good clearance, so that fits up a lot better through there. Still got adjustment, we'll need to tighten it down so I can try to put it on. Now I'm just doing some fine-tuning adjustment on getting this alignment right between the caliper and the rotor, and I think we pretty well have it. Okay, with that, the caliper's mounted, and it seems to be working correct. I put on the brake, and it stops. I put on the brake, and it stops. So, call that successful. The brake works, but not enough to totally stop it when the motor's on full. But you can tell it is slowing it down, so it is working. So not quite strong enough to stop it. That motor is plenty strong. Alright, cool. So now I'm working to mount this handle here. And for this to happen, it is meant for a much, much smaller radius. I'm going to have to cut away a little bit of the plastic here, hopefully get down enough that I can do something like this with these two, and I'll probably end up having some longer bolts. But I'm going to start whittling into this, and I'll have to do this on the other side as well, and hopefully it'll be enough to get me a handle that I'll be able to grab.
Electric-powered wheelbarrow. All right, that'll make easy work of heavy stuff.
So this is the part of the build where I tend to stop making as good of videos of everything I'm doing and just kind of go ahead and get it done. So I'm taking a second to show you. I'm mounting a waterproof enclosure or water resistance enclosure underneath it, so all this bare wiring won't be getting rained on. I've had this thing functional. I've driven it around a little bit. I had the batteries on it, so now I'm taking it all apart, getting this mounted up. And when I know that this mounts up good, I'm going to take it apart again, take my plate off, clean it up, paint it. And I'm going to come down here. You see I put back on my two outer wheels, my original wheels, with a really long bolt through the original brackets. Those just act as a little bit of support. But I'll come down, take off the brackets I made up, and get those painted as well, just because they're all bare steel right now and they will rust eventually. And now is the part where I realize I made a mistake. I really should have put this side with these numerous penetrations down here, because all my wires, or most of my wires, will want to come in from here and not kind of out here in front of your feet and such. So, do I take this off, re-drill it, put extra holes in here that might leak water? Or I bought two of these, one for another project. Do I just start over and use this one for something else and put tape on it if I need to make it waterproof? But, oops. Wasn't really looking, didn't realize this box was not symmetrical. I was just putting it all on and not thinking about where the cable entry was. Oops. All right, mounting plate's been taken off. I've got my galvanizing paint. So we're gonna give this some coats of galvanizing paint for some good rust protection. Original Gorilla wheels are added back on using the large 10-inch bolt. Double nut on the end to keep it from coming off. Reassembled, brackets are painted. Both of these are there. The other wheel's on. So this is all together. And now I need to get the controller mounted. Getting towards final button up. We got a bunch of zip ties holding everything in place. Got the controller and the enclosure. And I guess I need to put some zip ties on that parking brake cable. And then I should just about be good. Brake cable zip tied. Electrical cables are zip tied. Zip ties are trimmed, nice flush cut. Put them on the outside. Cover on, and I'll flip it over and hope everything works. All right, moment of truth. It's all wired up. Ooh, 41 volts. And all right, it's working. So that one should be just about done. So a couple of things here that I didn't talk about. One, the throttle. It's mounted up on a 3D printed attachment that I made and designed, and it works just fine, but it was really meant to go on a handlebar, so I had to make that 3D printed part. The other thing was, you saw there's a couple of switches right next to the throttle as well. It actually has a forward and a reverse function, so if you need to, you can put it in reverse and it'll try to back up on you. The other switch there is for the speed. It actually has a several speed control, but it seems to really only work on low and high and not 3-speed. So there's a couple extra switches there. They are useful. There are connectors for them on the controller, and I decided to wire them up. I could even have wired up a sensor on the brake switch, and it would have regenerative braking. So if you were going downhill and you put on the brakes, it would see that you put on the brakes, and it would try to charge back up the battery. I don't know how well that works, but it could be done, although it feels a little unnecessary on a wheelbarrow. I've been using this thing for a couple of months, and it works. It really pulls along. That knobby tire really grips the ground. It's got lots of torque. It's great for moving stuff around. I think where this thing really excels is when you have heavy loads and you have heavy loads that you need to go uphill. For light loads, it honestly doesn't really help you that much. In fact, it's a little annoying to be hitting the throttle when you're just trying to roll the thing around. But when you've got something heavy and you're really having to push to go uphill, it's
awesome to be able to just feel that wheel pulling it uphill for you. The other thing I think this could be really useful for is a cart type thing and not a wheelbarrow. So I might think about building another one of those next. If you like this video, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and help me out. And stick around and we'll do some more projects like this.
Stop it.